Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope you're doing good. This is version 0.7.1, released as Update 1.086.065, and it's very much a refinement-focused release that smooths out rough edges left behind by the previous major update. If you've been playing consistently, especially through the end of last year, you'll probably notice that this patch feels less like a shakeup and more like someone quietly tightening the bolts all across the game. One of the biggest themes running through this update is stability. A lot of players have been reporting crashes, odd desync issues, and strange behavior during longer sessions, particularly on larger bases with a lot of active pals. This patch addresses multiple causes of those crashes, especially ones tied to pathing and AI routines. Pals getting stuck, freezing in place, or endlessly repeating tasks was more than just immersion breaking. In some cases, it was actually destabilizing the game. After this update, pal behavior is noticeably smoother, with better transitions between work states and fewer moments where creatures just seem to forget what they're supposed to be doing. Combat also got a round of fine-tuning, not in a way that dramatically changes how fights feel, but in a way that makes them fairer and more predictable. Certain attacks that were hitting harder than intended have been adjusted, while others that felt underwhelming have been brought back into line. Enemy scaling has been cleaned up too, particularly in mid to late game areas where difficulty spikes could feel a bit random. You might not immediately notice a single dramatic change, but over time, fights feel more consistent. And that consistency matters a lot in a game built around preparation and progression. Base management is another area where this patch quietly does a lot of work. Resource production calculations were cleaned up, fixing situations where output didn't match what was displayed. Some structures were also corrected so they properly recognize nearby storage or workstations, reducing the need to constantly rearrange your base just to get things functioning. There were also fixes for automation chains breaking after reloads, which was a huge frustration for players who put serious time into optimizing their setups. Now, when you load back in, your systems are far more likely to just work the way you left them. Multiplayer got some attention as well. Connection stability has been improved, especially for longer co-op sessions where players noticed increasing lag or delayed interactions over time. Sync issues with PAL actions and enemy movement were also addressed, making shared worlds feel more reliable. This is important because multiplayer is such a core part of Palworld's identity, and even small hiccups can really disrupt the experience when multiple people are building and fighting together. Quality of life changes round out a lot of the rest of the patch. Interface elements that weren't updating correctly have been fixed, tooltips now reflect actual values more accurately, and several edge case bugs tied to crafting and inventory management have been resolved. Things like items not stacking correctly, progress bars freezing, or menus behaving inconsistently were all on the list. These aren't the kinds of changes that dominate trailers, but they're the ones that make the game feel polished when you're dozens of hours deep. Performance optimization is another quiet win here. Memory usage has been improved, load times in certain areas are slightly faster, and background processes tied to world simulation have been streamlined. On lower-end systems, this can translate to fewer frame drops during busy moments, while on higher-end setups, it just makes everything feel smoother and more responsive overall. What's especially interesting about this patch is what it represents rather than what it adds. Palworld is clearly in a phase where the foundation matters more than expansion, and that's usually a good sign. Pocket Pair is showing that they're paying attention to feedback, addressing problems quickly, and making sure the game remains stable as it continues to grow. This kind of update builds trust with the player base because it tells you that future content is going to be layered on top of something solid rather than rushed. So while this patch might not give you a new reason to start a fresh save, it absolutely gives you a better reason to keep playing the one you already have. Everything feels a little more reliable, a little more balanced, and a little less frustrating. And over time, those small improvements add up to a much better overall experience. If this is how 2026 is starting for Palworld, it sets a pretty encouraging tone for what's coming next.